us with the prayer. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Ganana-antva Ganapatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashunvannotibhiseda Sadanam Mahaganapataye Namaha. Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinivati Dhinama Vitriyavatu Ano Divo Bruhatah Parvatada Saraswati Yajata Gantu Yajnam Vagdevyai Namaha. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Jnana Yoga. We shall today start with a new chapter, that is Practical Vedanta. Part 1, delivered in London, 10th November 1896. Swami Vivekananda is telling, I have been asked to say something about the practical position of the Vedanta philosophy. As I have told you, theory is very good indeed. But how are we to carry it into practice? If it be absolutely impracticable, no theory is of any value whatever, except as intellectual gymnastic. This is the case in Western philosophy. We have Eastern philosophy, we have Western philosophy. In Western philosophy, the philosophy doesn't have any connection with religion. Religion is entirely different and philosophy is entirely different. But in Eastern philosophy, especially the Indian philosophy and especially the Hindu religion, philosophy and religion are not separate. Hinduism has high philosophy which no other religion or philosophy has attained to the highest position, but at the same time, it's the only religion which has brought down all that highest truth to our day-to-day life. You can see the highest Godhead, the Lord, the Advaita Vedanta in your streets, in your festivals, in your temples, in our food too, even in our talking, in our day-to-day life, everywhere, even in the proverbs, even in the poetries, dramas, everywhere you can find this highest philosophy brought down to practice. So it is just like the theory in the science is useless until you transform that into practice, which is called technology. So that's why everywhere, in every company, in every country, in every universities, you'll be having a department called R&D, research and development. There is a lot of theory available, how to transform that theory into practice and put it to use in the life of human being, make it useful. So now the generator or the dynamo was found out. How can you put it into use? So the dynamo was used to make the fan and get the cool air to the people. That was long back. Nowadays, lot of theory, lot of research development is converted into development in the form of technology. So that's why until unless it is transformed into technology, science is of no use. So likewise, you may be knowing there is a saying in English, especially in science parlance, that necessity is the mother of all inventions. So all the inventions have come out because of the necessity of human beings. Likewise, all this philosophy in India over past thousands of years, not 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, more than 60,000 of years. So this necessity was there for the religion. That's why people wanted to go beyond their senses. They thought they are limited. They wanted to expand. So the search of religion began. So this religion or philosophy or Vedanta is also a product of necessity because they needed it. Otherwise, why should they have gone behind this and beyond this? So that's why here you can see when the people of England, where Swami Vivekananda was telling about the Vedanta philosophy, Vivekananda is continuing, as I have told you, theory is very good indeed, but how are we to carry it into practice? How can we bring that to our day-to-day life? How can it be made beneficial to the human beings? What is the utility? How are we to carry it into practice? This is a question posed by Swami Vivekananda himself. Then he answers, if this philosophy of Vedanta is absolutely impracticable, then no theory is of any value whatever, except as intellectual gymnastics, which is so in the Western philosophy. It is just for the intellectuals. It is just for the intellectual gymnastics, that's all. The Vedanta, therefore, as a religion, must be intensely practical. Our rishis and munis, from time immemorial, they have made this philosophy not only immensely but intensely practical. We must be able to carry it out in every part of our life, every second of our life, every minute, every breath of our life. We can bring this Vedanta philosophy in practice, in every breathing. And not only this, the fictitious differentiation between religion and the life of the world must vanish. In Hinduism, there is no division between the religious life and the worldly life. So that is why we bring about the concept called work and worship. It starts with work and worship. So work, we think it is secular and worldly. Then we think worship is only in the prayer hall or in the temple or somewhere in the religious functions. But rest of the time, I can be whatever I can be. I can cheat, I can deceive, I can do anything I like. No, that is wrong. That's not the idea of Vedanta philosophy. So that's why Vivekananda has told it begins with work and worship, then it continues to get into the mode of work as worship, then finally it will end in work is worship. Then the puja, then the havan, then the homa will not be a separate entity. Every aspect of our life will become a sacrifice, a puja, a worship. That is the reason you might be noting that Swami Vivekananda has introduced in the Ramakrishna tradition, while taking the food, you have to repeat the 24th verse of the 4th chapter, that is, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. Yeah, even the ordinary act, the worldly act, or the secular act of taking the food is also converted as a yagna or a yaga. Every bit of your life has to be converted into like this sacrifice. That is the goal of spiritual life. So the Vedanta, therefore, as a religion, must be intensely practical. We must be able to carry out in every part of our life. You should know that in highest Advaitic and Vedantic philosophy, not only Vedanta is carried in just every part of your life, but every breath of your life. It is told even while breathing, while taking in the breath, we have to tell the japa is going on constantly. Soham ham saha, soham ham saha. While you take in the breath, what is that? Soham, saha aham. Saha means that. What is that here? Tatpada. Tatpadam darshitam ena tasmai shri gurave namaha. That tatpada means the Parabrahma, the Lord. Soham saha aham. That I am. That Lord, that Parabrahma Swarupa I am. Ham saha. Aham saha. I am, while I'm putting out the breath, I am that Lord. So each time you are breathing, breathe in, it is saha aham, soham. Breathe out, ham saha, aham saha. I am that. So every breath you are identifying with that Parabrahman. That Parabrahman I am that Parabrahman. So each breathing, this highest philosophy is in your breathing too. We must be able to carry it out in every part of our life. And not only this, the fictitious differentiation between religion. So Swami Vivekananda calls it as fictitious differentiation between religion and the life of the world must vanish. For the Vedanta teaches oneness, one life throughout. Why? We have so many desires. We don't want to fulfill all those desires through the righteous means. So only in the temple, only in the prayer hall, only during meditation or spiritual practices, I'll be religious, I will be ethical, I will be moral. But when I come out of the prayer hall, when I come out of the shrine, when I come out of the temple, in the business, in the earning of the money, I am cheating. I want to be unethical. I want to be immoral. Why is this? Why don't we bring religion everywhere? So this fictitious differentiation between religion and the life of the world must vanish. Why? Because Vedanta teaches oneness, one life throughout. So it is the human beings who drag down that highest philosophy and they will dilute it. You have to bring down that highest philosophy to practice, or you have to take up this life into that highest level. Instead of that, we drag down that highest philosophy and dilute it. So, the ideals of religion must cover the whole field of life. They must enter into all our thoughts. So Vivekananda is telling, every thought of yours should be having that highest philosophy. And more into practice. And all that philosophy, when you fill it in your brains, in your thoughts, in your veins, then it will come into your action. That's why we have to fill up our brain and our mind and our heart with this highest philosophy always. Then automatically that will come out in every action of mine. What is action? What is my karma? I do my karma. I lift my hand, I walk, I go here and there, I sit, I stand up. How does that happen? It is my thought. My mind wants to get up, then the brain takes that command from the ego, the mind to the brain, and from the brain it is transferred into the nerves to the muscles, and then the organs will start functioning. You get up, you move forward, because it is from the thought level. It is thought that has been converted into action, the karma. So now, when you fill up your mind with these higher thoughts, with this highest philosophy, then what is going to happen? So then every action will be to fulfill that highest philosophy. That's the reason we have to hear from the elders, from the gurus, from the great people, from the life of the saints, avatars, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Vedas, from the Upanishads. We have to read, we have to hear. Then when your thoughts are filled with that wonderful ideas, then automatically that will be gradually percolating or getting transformed into action. So your action, your work is nothing but your thought, your desires, your subtle samskaras. So fill up your mind with that higher thoughts, noble thoughts, the highest Vedantic thoughts, then automatically in every actions you will see that philosophy being worked out. I will give you an example. There was a person who was carrying a cup full of coffee. It was covered to the brim. The coffee was full to the brim of the cup. While he was carrying carefully to be given, to be served to another person, what happened? Another person who was going in a hurry bumped into that person or that coffee. Then I will ask you the question, what will happen? It's but natural, all of you tell, coffee spilled out. Coffee will fall down. But no is my answer. How is that? If it is coffee in the cup, it has to spill out if somebody bumps. No is my answer. So then what is your answer? Suppose the cup was full with tea, then tea would fall down. Suppose the cup was full with water, the water would fall down. Suppose the cup was full with fruit juice, the fruit juice would have spilled out. So now taking this example, now suppose what is the bump into that coffee in your life? The difficulties, the unfavorable situations, the bumps and difficulties of our lives. Because of the bump, whatever we have in our heart, negativity, anger, jealousy, hatred, if you are full inside your heart with these things, it will spill out, it will fall out, you will become angry, you will become jealous when there is a bump. When some difficulties come out, whatever you have filled in your heart will spill out. Instead, if you have spilled out, if you are filling your heart, your mind with these noble thoughts of Vedanta, with love, with service, with the idea of the knowledge of Brahman, the Paramatman, the truth, the God, then automatically these noble ideas will spill out. Whenever there is a bump, whenever there is a difficulty, whenever you face crisis, if you had been filling up your heart with the negative ideas, with the worldly ideas, with the sinful ideas, so during the crisis, during the unfavorable situation, difficulties, whatever you have filled it up will spill out, will come out. If you have filled up anger, jealousy, that will come out. So the negativity, the worldly things, the unethical things, the immoral things will fall out. Instead, if you have filled this philosophy, the Vedantic ideas, full of love towards other being, because you see the same Atman everywhere, the same Lord in everybody, the attitude of service, humility, if you have filled it up, then that will spill out in the time of difficulty and crisis and whatever might be the unfavorable situation, whatever you have filled up, your mind and heart will come out. So what is the idea? So fill up your mind with these noble thoughts, noble ideas, Vedantic thoughts, the idea of the Parabrahman, identity with the Atman, Paramatman, and that will spill out in the time of crisis, whether it is pandemic, whether it is influenza, whether it is accident. I'll just give you an example. While I was traveling from Johannesburg to India, on the way, that flight Emeritus visits its country, Dubai. So before landing or even in between, maybe on the ocean somewhere, there was a air pocket or opposing strong winds that was maybe at a very high speed. So there was a bump. It was even the bump of the airplane was even worse than the bullock cart. Almost the flight was about to overturn. Everybody were in a normal condition. They were moving about. They were going to the toilet. They were walking here and there. All were free. They had removed their belts. So the jolt, the bump of the aeroplane was so bad. Everybody started shrieking and shouting for maybe 1 minute or half a minute. Everybody thought the flight is going to crash. Then all were shouting, screaming for life, screaming out of fear. Everywhere, the whole airplane was filled with that sound. I started noticing myself. I too was shouting. I too was screaming. But what was I screaming? I was shouting the mantra japa, which was given by my guru. So the thought or the name of Lord Ramakrishna, the mantra, Ishta mantra, which I have been given, was coming out loudly. So I was very satisfied. Oh, my life is fulfilled. At the time of death, I can get the mantra, the name of the Lord. So how could this happen? Why other people were shouting, screaming for life, shouting so many different varieties of sounds? Because they had filled their heart and mind with that fearful, negative thoughts. For past 32 years or 33 years, or even more, I got my spiritual initiation from the Guru. My Gurudev, revered Srimad Swami Tapasyanandaji Maharaj. My mantra, Ishtadevata's mantra, was given in 1988. And for 33 years, I have been doing it, filling my brain with that continuously. So at the time of death, at the time of crisis, at the time of the bump of that opposing air pocket, air current in the aeroplane, brought out what I had filled my mind with. So I could remember the name of the Lord instead of negative things, fear and other things. So whatever you fill up your brain, when in crisis, when in trouble, that will come out. So fill up higher thought, fill up the name of the Lord, the play, the game, the Leela of the Lord. So many avatars have come, so many Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavata, the lives of great saints, the teachings of great people, avatars like Sri Ramakrishna, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, life of Holy Mother, Vivekananda's life. Fill up your idea with Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, then automatically that thing will come out in every action of yours. The ideals of religion must cover the whole field of life. They must enter into all our thoughts and more into practice. Now Swami Vivekananda is telling, I will enter gradually on the practical side as we proceed. But this series of lectures is intended to be a basis. And so we must first apply ourselves to theories and understand how they are worked out. So Vivekananda is making the preparation to show us how these theories can be worked out, how this philosophy, the highest noble ideas can be worked out. Proceeding from the forest caves to busy streets and cities, the rishis and munis who brought out, who researched and discovered these truths, they were living in the forest and caves, hills and dales, and that proceeded, that idea, that philosophy, they proceeded from the forest caves to busy streets and cities. And one peculiar feature we find is that many of these thoughts have been the outcome not of retirement into forest, but have emanated from persons whom we expect to lead the busiest lives from ruling monarchs. That's why they were called Rajarshis, Devarshis. Rajas, the kings, the emperors were the great seers. It is not after completing our life, worldly life, in the end, without any option, we go retire into the forest or old age homes and think of God there out of fear. No. It has come out of the kings, the monarchs. It has come out of the gods, Devarshis, Rajarshis. Janaka was a great monarch, a king. He used to be the first person to go to the field during the monsoon and plow. That is the time when he got Sita. He took the plow and he was the first person in his kingdom. Even before any farmer would go to plow, he would be the first person. When he was about to plow, then only he got Mother Sita in the ground. But what was his name? Videha Janaka. Videha. That's why Mother Sita got the name Vaidehi. What is it? Videha. Why was this Janaka called Videha? He had no body consciousness at all. He had realized the Paramatman, he would never identify with the body. So he was called Videha. So these thoughts, these philosophies did not come After retirement to the forest, one peculiar feature we find is that many of these thoughts, the highest Vedantic thoughts, have been the outcome not of retirement into forest, but they have emanated from people whom we expect to lead the busiest lives. Who gave us the Bhagavad Gita? Was leading the busiest of life, the kingmaker, the great, courageous and bold fighter of that period, Lord Krishna. And where did he give it? On the battlefield. And whom was that great philosophy, highest philosophy given to? Another great king, archer, fighter, Kshatriya, was the most busiest person, that is Arjuna. So it was given by a great warrior, a kingmaker, Lord Krishna, on the battlefield to another warrior. So if that philosophy of Bhagavad Gita was made practical by Arjuna, getting the teaching from Krishna there, and I think you don't find any place more intensely active than a battlefield. Can you find? Nobody can find another place which is more intense than a battlefield. So many of the things, computers, vehicles, nuclear energy, so many things were found out or put into practice only, which were first into the battlefield, and then it was to the utility, the form of technology to the people. So the most active place is the battlefield. And if the philosophy given by the greatest of personality, the archer, the wielder of the discus, Sudarshana Chakra, the kingmaker, he defeated so many bad kings, he killed so many demons and made their children are good people. The king, he never became the king. He was a man of sacrifice. So such Krishna gave this wonderful philosophy called Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield to Arjuna, another great warrior, who made it practicable on the battlefield. He was convinced and put it into practice there. So if this philosophy of Bhagavad Gita can be practiced on the battlefield, do you think it is not practical in ordinary place like kitchen, in the house, in the office, in the construction field, in the education field, wherever it is practical? So that is what Swami Vivekananda is saying. These wonderful philosophies of Vedanta, these thoughts, have been the outcome not of retirement into forest, but have emanated from persons whom we expect to lead the busiest life from rolling monarchs. Now you have to note that many people object and tell it is impractical to give Bhagavad Gita in a battlefield. But Swami Vivekananda tells, no, that itself is an indication that it is the most practical thing. And I have explained to you how. That is the reason why Bhagavad Gita is always shown on the battlefield in the chariot with Krishna giving that knowledge to Arjuna. Shvetaketu was the son of Aruni. We have the wonderful, one of the Mahavakyas, the great sentence from the Upanishad. There are 4 Mahavakyas, Aham Brahmasmi, from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Then this Shvetaketu, getting it from Aruni, his father. That is another great Mahavakya. That is Tattvam Asi Shvetaketu. Shvetaketu was the son of Aruni, a sage, most probably a recluse, a rishi. He was brought up in the forest. He went to the city of Panchalas and appeared at the court of the king Pravahana Jaivali. The king asked him, do you know how beings depart hence at death? To which this recluse or the rishi told, no, sir. Do you know how they return hither? How the living beings depart after the death and they come back again? Again, this recluse, the sage, it is asked, the question is asked by the king. And the recluse or the sage couldn't answer. The sage, no, sir, I do not know how the living beings come back or get the birth. Another question, do you know the way of the fathers? That is the Pitrus here. Fathers means Pitrus, the ancestors. Do you know the way of the fathers and the way of the gods? The Devayana and Pitriyana. No, sir. Then the king asked other questions. Shvetaketu, the son of a rishi, who himself was a recluse, who had learnt all the Vedas, he could not answer them. So the king told him that he knew nothing. The boy was ashamed. He went back to his father. And the father admitted that he himself could not answer these questions. It was not that he was unwilling to answer these questions. They were very sincere. If I do not know, I do not know. No hypocrisy. The father told, I too do not know any of these things. The boy went back to his father and the father admitted that he himself could not answer these questions. It was not that he was unwilling to answer these questions. It was not that he was unwilling to teach the boy, but he did not know these things. So he went to the king. See, so much sincere. I do not know it. So the rishi, the sage, went to the king and asked, please teach this knowledge. So the sage went to the king and asked to be taught these secrets. Now the monarch, the king, said that these things had been hither to know only among kings. So it was the kings who had found out. It were the monarchs who had found out these truths and given to the rishis, and the rishis continued it, that's all. So now you can find out that it was discovered by not the recluse in the forest, but by the kings. Now the king is telling this rishi all these secrets, higher secrets after death, and the Devayana and Pitriyana. The king said that these things had been either to known only among kings. The king said that these things had been hitherto known only among kings. The priests never knew them. The priests never knew them. The king, he, however, proceeded to teach him what he desired to know. In various Upanishads. So now you can see, was Bhagavad Gita given by a rishi or a sage? No. It was given by a kingmaker, Lord Krishna, to another king, Arjuna. So it was not given by a saint, a rishi, a sage in the forest to another disciple. So you can now see how practical is Vedanta philosophy. In various Upanishads, we find that this Vedanta philosophy is not the outcome of meditation in the forests only, but that the very best parts of it were thought out and expressed by brains which were busiest in everyday affairs of life. We cannot conceive any man busier than an absolute monarch. Can you? Can anybody be more busier than the absolute monarch? A man who is ruling over millions of people. So many other different work, so many difficult work, so many difficulties. He has to manage the whole kingdom, yet Some of these rulers were very deep thinkers. Everything goes to show that this philosophy must be very, very practical. So can you not conclude? Can you not summarize? Can you not surmise? Can you not infer? Everything here goes to show that this philosophy must be very, very practical. It was because the busiest of the monarchs, the best of the brains have brought out these philosophies. Not in meditation, not in the forest, but in the palace, but in the place where they ruled. Everything goes to show. Vivekananda tells that this philosophy, this Vedanta philosophy must be very, very practical. And later on, when we come to the Bhagavad Gita, most of you perhaps have read it. It is the best commentary we have on the Vedanta philosophy. Swami Vivekananda is telling that Bhagavad Gita is the best commentary on the Vedanta philosophy. Curiously enough, see again, Swami Vivekananda, I have learned this from Vivekananda only, and now Vivekananda himself is telling about it. Curiously enough, the scene is laid on the battlefield. Ranaranga, the scene of Bhagavad Gita is laid on the battlefield, where Krishna teaches this philosophy, the Vedanta philosophy, the best commentary on the Upanishad to Arjuna. And the doctrine which stands out luminously, the doctrine of Vedanta, the doctrine of Upanishads, which stands out luminously, brightly in every page of the Bhagavad Gita, is nothing but intense activity. Nowhere Krishna is telling Arjuna, stop your duty, stop your work, go to the forest and meditate. He never tells. Nowhere will you find. Krishna encourages only activity. The Naishkarmya Siddhi is the highest philosophy. And what is that Naishkarmya? What is that actionlessness? To be calm and peaceful in the intense of activity while you are doing all the activity, to keep your mind calm and quite balanced, and to be intensely active when you are meditating. These two contradictory, so-called contradictory things is the goal. That is the actionlessness. It is not being lazy or idling or sleeping. It is to be most calm and actionless in the field of action and to be intensely active during the meditation. That is called Naishkarmya Siddhi. That is a goal which is given by Bhagavad Gita. So, this is the secret of work. The whole of Karma Yoga is that. One of the greatest of freedom fighters, Balagangadhara Tilak, has written a very big commentary on Bhagavad Gita. And in that, he tells that the whole essence of Bhagavad Gita is Karma Yoga. Karma, active, be active, be active. Arjuna wants to run away, escape from the battlefield. But Krishna goads him, tells him, no, you have to be active, do your duty. You cannot run away. And this doctrine of Upanishad, which stands out luminously in every page of the Bhagavad Gita, is intense activity. But in the midst of it, eternal calmness. That is Naishkarmya. In every page of Bhagavad Gita, this doctrine of Upanishad stands out luminously. In every page of the Bhagavad Gita is intense activity. What is that philosophy? Intense activity, in the midst of it, eternal calmness. This is the goal. This is the goal of practical Vedanta, Karma Yoga. What is it? Intense activity, in the midst of it, eternal calmness. This is the secret of work. This is Karma Yoga. This is practical Vedanta. This is the secret of work to attain which is the goal of Vedanta. Inactivity, as we understand, it is in the sense of passivity, certainly cannot be the goal. Do you think Vedanta or Upanishad or Bhagavad Gita is guiding you to laziness? And what is your goal? From the childhood, you are taught that we have to read well. Why? Because if we read well, we will get a good job. Why? Because if you get a good job, you can earn money. Why? Because if you earn a lot of money, then you can get a good wife. Why? Because after that you can have a good family. Why? Then after that you can build a big house. Why? After that you can work hard and earn a lot of money. Why? After that I will have a retired life. Why? Then I can sit on the easy chair and watch the TV and be sipping the coffee. Is this the goal of life? Sitting on a chair, easy chair or a couch, and then watching the TV and then eating popcorn or sipping coffee or tea or Coca-Cola or whatever, Coke or Pepsi. Is this the goal of life? Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, Vedanta is never teaching this. This is what we are teaching our children. This is what our worldly life is teaching us all. This is our goal. And we blame religion, shamelessly that we blame religion. We have the audacity to blame religion that it is taking us to passivity. Never religion or Upanishad or Vedanta is teaching passivity. It is never teaching inactivity or laziness. Then what is it? Intense activity is taught by this Upanishad or Bhagavad Gita. But in the midst of it, eternal calmness. This is the secret of work, to attain which is the goal of Vedanta. Inactivity as we understand. Inactivity as we understand it, in the sense of passivity, laziness, certainly cannot be the goal of Vedanta or Upanishad or Bhagavad Gita. Were it so, then walls around us would be the most intelligent. The walls, the trees which are so inactive, at least the trees are more active. The walls, the stones, the mountain could have been the most intelligent. They would have been the greatest of philosophers, the greatest of rishis. Because they are inactive, clod of earth, stump of tree would be the greatest sages in the world. Why? Because they are inactive? Not at all. Nor does inactivity become activity. Nor does inactivity become activity when it is combined with passion. What is passion? You have lot of desires, intense samskaras, vasanas, subtle impression. You want to fulfill their desires, then you cannot get it. You want to get it intensely. That creates that passion to get that desired object. So nor does inactivity become activity when it's combined with passion. Real activity, which is the goal of Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishad, is combined with eternal calmness. So that is the combination. The worldly combination is inactivity becomes activity when it is combined with passion. That is the worldly combination. But what is the combination given by Vedanta? Real activity, which is the goal of Vedanta, is combined with eternal calmness. Activity to get intense calmness. But in the worldly life, It is activity to get passion, and that will create inactivity, laziness. Real activity, which is the goal of Vedanta, is combined with eternal calmness, the calmness which cannot be ruffled, the balance of mind which is never disturbed. But on the contrary, the worldly joys, the worldly activity disturbs your mind, poisons your mind with jealousy, anger, hatred, and put you into inactivity. Whereas the real activity, which is the goal of Vedanta, is combined with eternal calmness, the calmness which cannot be ruffled. There will be no disturbance, there will be no imbalance. You will find the eternal peace, the balance of mind which is never disturbed. Whatever happens, whatever might be the external situation, whatever might be the bump, and we all know from our experience in life that that is the best attitude for work. And that you can see is the intense activity is the goal. In the intense calmness, that is the goal of Vedanta. Is it not practical? Is this not the goal of life? Should we go in for the passions, the activity which disturbs us, which wrecks our mind, makes us psychological mad people who can be admitted only to lunatic asylum? Is that the goal of our life? But the goal of Vedanta is intense activity in the midst of intense calmness. Any external disturbance, but yet your mind will not be disturbed. That is the goal. To make you strong from within. That is the goal of Vedanta. Is it not practical? What more practicality do you want? Now Swami Vivekananda will take us through much more things of this type. So, because we have already almost completed our time, there is 4 more minutes for 7 o'clock. So we will dedicate these 4 minutes or 3 minutes now for question and answer if you have any. Do you have any questions, any doubts on the subject which we have discussed today? If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, then we can entertain it. Any doubts, any question? So on the YouTube live chat, there are no questions. And here too, on the Google Meet also, we don't have any questions.
Master Guruji?
Yes.
You mentioned that you not need to go to secluded places for like meditation in order to practice various religious knowledge, but I've been reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it does make mention that so we have to go to other places like Rishikesh and other places to practice aspects of yoga and stuff like that. Would you like to clear this up?
Yeah. Did I mention, or did Swami Vivekananda mention that we should not go to solitude? I never did that, but it was told that these high philosophies were not discovered there in the forest or the caves, but in the intenseness of activity by the monarchs in between their intense activity of ruling the kingdom. And Bhagavad Gita, which now you are telling about Bhagavata, which is nothing but the life of Lord Krishna and the avatars of Vishnu. And that great avatara Krishna is giving that wonderful Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield, where it is the intensive activity. He never gave it on the forest or in the caves. So all these great ideas have come out in the active place, which shows that it is practical. That was all the thing which Swami Vivekananda was telling. But Krishna himself went to the Sandipini Ashrama to learn yoga in solitude, but he never stayed there. Yes, we have to get it and put it into use to make it into practice. So that is the goal. Activity in the midst of intense calmness. That's the goal. That's the idea. Nowhere Swami Vivekananda told that you should not go to the forest, you should not go to the Haridwar. But he's telling that there should be intense activity and calmness should be there. Suppose we go to Haridwar and sit there and our mind is rushing out to desires. And what is the use? We have been carrying only the impure mind there. If you can get the benefit of Haridwar by purifying your mind and getting that steadiness of the mind, then that is wonderful. But if we go there to Haridwar and sit, close my eyes and intensely think of the worldly things in my mind, then what is the use of going to Haridwar? It's better to do the Karma Yoga and purify my mind. And when my mind is ready, then you can go and meditate. So this moment, that is the goal. Vivekananda tells, this moment you should be reading the Bhagavad Gita. The next moment you should be meditating in the shrine. The next moment you should be going to the garden and tilling the field and doing the work of the garden and the flower garden. The next moment you should be there selling the produce in the market. The next moment you should be in the office working. So you can do all these combining without any disturbance in your mind. That is the goal. Intense activity and intense calmness. So that's the goal. Nowhere Vivekananda is told that you should not go to the forest, you should not go to Haridwar or any place. But this is a goal, and all these great philosophies have come in the midst of activity. That is what Vivekananda is telling. Never did he tell you should not go to Haridwar. He himself had gone to Himalayas. Vivekananda himself had gone to Haridwar and Himalayas and Tibet. So that's not the goal.
Okay, thank you, Guruji.
Yeah. Oh. Any other questions? Any other doubts on the discussion today?
Maharaj, how are you, Maharaj?
No, in the class I can't answer all these questions. We can do that over the phone. Here we will entertain only the questions. There is one question there. I'll call you personally, Raghu.
Right.
So, passions drive, Sanjay Nair is asking the question, passions drive human to achieve so much in the world, life. Why look down upon it? Not at all. It has not been looked down upon the passions, but passions drive human beings to selfish ends, only for themselves and their family. But these things drive for the humanity, for the welfare of the world and the people and the country. So that is the goal. Passions will drive only for himself, for these selfish ends. But this wonderful philosophy or Vedanta drives us to the welfare of all the people, all the living beings, the whole universe. So that is the idea. There is no looking down upon anything, but it is looking up for everything. Here, in the passion, you will be really looking down upon others while you are in the cutthroat competition to get your selfish passions, the desires to be fulfilled. It is the animal kingdom where it is called survival of the fittest. Only the person who will, the tiger which kills more animals will survive. So like that in passion, the cutthroat competition in the world, the person will become rich or enjoy the world who will subdue all others. So if one person has to enjoy all the 1,000 poor people's hard work, so that is passion. But Vedanta is, yes, the passion is there, but it is for the welfare of the humanity, which is, you can now yourself decide which to look down upon or which to look up to. Yeah, any other questions? Any other doubts? Okay, then we shall conclude today's discussion with a prayer. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you. Namaste. Om Namo Narayanaya. We will be again meeting next Thursday with the same Vedanta Gnana Yoga discussion from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda from 3:30 to 4:30. That is the South African time. So 3.5 hours. India will be ahead. Then Friday again the same time we'll be meeting for the Vedanta class. All are welcome for that. And tomorrow evening, at the same time, we are discussing on Bhagavad Gita, the second chapter, which is giving us, Lord Krishna is giving us the wonderful idea of Karma Yoga itself, about the steady wisdom of a person, how to keep our mind unruffled in the midst of all activity. So you are welcome to this discussion too. And Sunday and Monday early in the morning, that is 6:30 to 8 o'clock South African time, 10 o'clock Indian time, we are discussing on the great master, life of Sri Ramakrishna, written by Shardanandaji Maharaj. All these truths made practical in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. So all are welcome to all this discussion. On Tuesday evening, we have the Viveka the crust level of discrimination, written by Shankaracharya. Again, Bhagavad Gita. We are in the 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga, the 4th verse of the 3rd chapter. All are welcome to all these discussions. Thank you. Namaste. Om Namo Narayanaya.